The success of Marvel Rivals is something that will be studied for years to come. While it should be a straightforward lesson of listening to your fanbase and giving them what they want, sadly, in today's gaming economy, that has become a rare trait. If I look at recent memory, titles like Palworld and Helldivers would come to mind. They took the internet by storm and found massive success as a result. However, we have also seen the eventual drop-off. While it is still too early to tell if Rivals will follow the same trend, right now, things are looking really good. They are over a month into their launch, and they have managed to retain over 93% of their player base. That is an almost unheard of ratio. Marvel Rivals saw a peak of almost 500,000 and are still pulling in numbers well over 400,000. With new maps, new skins, and new characters releasing all the time, it is easy to understand why so many players are choosing to stay. As per Forbes, on Steam, where the majority of Marvel Rivals gamers are, Season 1's launch day brought in a record high of 644,269 players. That's up from the launch record of 480,990 players, which makes this around a 34% increase. Screen Rant also states, as reported in an article by 80 Level, current estimates show that Marvel Rivals has earned around $136 million in just 1 month and is on track to become one of the biggest live service games available. Marvel Rivals has brought in around $54.5 million on Steam, $27.3 million on PlayStation, and $2.7 million on Xbox, plus more from the Chinese server operated by NetEase for a total of roughly $136 million. As a free-to-play game, all revenue comes from players purchasing cosmetics either through the in-game store or the seasonal battle pass, which offers a variety of rewards for playing. Now, the success of this title cannot be pinned down by only one thing. There are many factors to consider. For instance, their social media presence. They have a massive footprint on the internet, from high engagement on places like Twitter to millions watching YouTube videos. Marvel Rivals are also very effectively tapping into the creator market, even creating a stream mode for the game. They have sponsored big streamers to play the game and enabled drops for them. On Twitch, at any given moment, there are over 100,000 people watching the Rivals category, making it one of the most watched categories on the platform. On YouTube, we have seen the same effect. Channels that are talking about this game are racking in millions of views. They make tier lists, talk about the newest characters or maps, and all of these are doing really well. Overall, there is just so much excitement around the title. People love to engage with the topic and watch content that is centered around this game. Over on Reddit, there is equally high engagement, and every single cosplayer is making costumes and doing a photo shoot of their favorite character. Now Marvel Rivals have also just reached an all-new peak when they dropped their Season 1 Battle Pass. As per Polygon, the Marvel Rivals Season 1 Battle Pass, formerly referred to as the Darkhold in-game, offers 10 new skins and a variety of other cosmetic goodies for both free-to-play players and those who pick up the paid luxury Battle Pass or its upgrade. This season, we have also seen the addition of the Fantastic Four. Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm were added first, and the rest of the crew will be added in the second half of the season. There are also brand new maps that you will be getting. There will also be brand new game modes and objectives that will ensure players stay connected and entertained. It is also worth pointing out just how interactive the developers have been. They have gone out of their way to listen to the community and give them what they want. The developers know exactly what sells, and they are very obviously playing into that, which is a great thing. It has almost become a taboo to listen to what your player base wants in today's landscape. However, Marvel Rivals has done a good job of giving the community a voice. It is even rumored that Rivals is working on a PvE mode. If this is true, they will be bringing in an even bigger audience. Over the last month, people have been calling this game an Overwatch killer. If they pull this off, they will truly be succeeding where Overwatch 2 has failed. While I believe that there is room for both games, I do see why some players would be switching over. You can't speak about Marvel Rivals without also looking at some other titles. One title that Rivals is being compared to heavily is Overwatch 2. While Overwatch certainly had its player base in the day, it feels like it is long past its due date. They tried to revive it with the sequel, but that also fell flat. There were a lot of promises made, and not a lot of promises kept. It was very clear from the start where the priority for Blizzard was. Instead of fixing pressing issues within their game, they chose to cancel game modes and release new colors to existing skins. All this shows to fans is that they are nothing more than a dollar sign. The same can be said for titles like Call of Duty Warzone. Even to this day, the game is riddled with bugs. Instead of working to fix it, they just release more skins while doing nothing to address bugs and cheaters. Concord is another recent example of not listening to what your fans want. For some reason, they thought that creating the worst possible character designs would get them more players. Dismissing the fanbase in such a gross and obvious way will do nothing but get your title shut down in 2 weeks. Now, unfortunately, not everybody gets this. There are some who believe that listening to your fanbase and giving them value is a bad thing. The Gamer, in their article titled "Marvel Rivals has too many heroes for its own good," writes, "Marvel Rivals arrived with one hell of an impact, but as the dust clears, some of its obvious flaws are now plain to see. The lack of a role queue is one major omission, and is already making effective team play an impossibility when playing with strangers. Unless you want to switch to a Vanguard or strategist of your own accord to salvage an ailing match, you'll end up losing. This is a problem in Overwatch 2, but role queue has made it much easier to form teams you know have a decent chance of winning if you work together. No Limits asks you to throw this aside for some chaotic fun where emerging victorious doesn't matter. But in Marvel Rivals, that is the only way to play, so it's impossible not to criticize. Right now, I spend games playing support out of obligation, preventing me from trying out other heroes. Look, I will not deny that Overwatch did have its movements. It was a massive game back in its day and enjoyed a number of successes. However, by the time Overwatch 2 arrived, that success was long gone, and I really would not use them as a blueprint for Rivals anymore. The role queue is something that players enjoy, at least they are in Marvel Rivals. In the article, they go on to say, NetEase has created a hero shooter using one of the biggest licenses in the world in a free-to-play format where people will want to jump in and play as some of their favorite heroes without restrictions. They don't care about playing them well or trying to learn what their abilities do or the role they fulfill. The goal is to look and feel as cool as you can in the shortest amount of time possible. A power fantasy that sadly isn't possible in a game that demands mechanical knowledge like this one. I respect people having different opinions, but I do think they miss the mark at least a bit here. They are trying to compare Rivals to single-player superhero games like Spider-Man or Batman and draw the conclusion that people won't enjoy Marvel Rivals because there are too many heroes and too many mechanics to learn. While the barrier to entry is always a challenge, at least for the moment, Rivals is doing a good job of balancing that. Thus, I do not see what the issue is. The writer of the article concludes things by saying, even during its beta period, the roster was stacked with a staggering number of playable heroes and villains to choose from. In the lead-up to its full launch, more additions were confirmed for the roster, making it hard to determine who I'd main and if I would even have enough time to learn all of their ins and outs before release. Turns out that I didn't. And now, the sheer act of playing Marvel Rivals is daunting. Once again, I find myself comparing it unfavorably to Overwatch. Overwatch launched with 21 heroes, while Rivals stepped out of the gate with 33, just 11 shy of how many Overwatch 2 has now. As it isn't an original universe, it has decades of media to draw from when it comes to its roster. But that also means there is less potential for future additions, and some of its biggest names can't be capitalized on because they've been here the entire time. For the first few years of its existence, Overwatch turned each new hero into a legitimate event. You would follow each update and tease with fervent anticipation, waiting to find out exactly what role they might fulfill and what they would look like. That won't happen when Rivals adds Sentry. Every new hero was unexpected, but for Rivals, it feels like we are already having to temper our expectations after NetEase jumped the gun on its A-listers. I could be proven wrong, but right now I'm not very excited about new heroes to come to Marvel Rivals because we are already dealing with an excessive roster. There is no moderation and a desire to give players a temporary power fantasy instead of easing them into things. This will only hurt the game in the long run, and feeling that way right now isn't a good sign. Look again. I am not saying that there are no lessons to learn from Overwatch. It is easy to forget just how big that title was. There is a reason why people are looking so closely at its downfall. For many, Overwatch defined this genre of gaming. However, those days are now gone. Having a large roster is not a problem and should not be viewed as such. At least not in the case of Marvel Rivals. The truth is that this title pulling out the big guns right off the bat is what led to its success. You cannot have a Marvel Rivals without introducing all the main MCU heroes that we are familiar with. There are thousands more characters to introduce in this game, and the idea that there are no new heroes to be excited about is crazy. I can think of 10 right off the bat that would get me hyped right now. At the end of the day, Marvel Rivals is proof that live service games can still succeed. Who would have thought that all it took was listening to your fanbase and loading the game with great content? There is a reason why they are set to make $1 billion this year. They certainly will not be making that if they follow Overwatch in its current form. While they made their own billion at one point, those days are gone now. Ultimately, only time will tell how history will remember Rivals.